Whispering Woods is expanding faster than anyone could have hoped. Genevieve Joyce is juggling multiple to-do lists, events, and meetings, far from the small zoo she initially started on. With new structures being built and more animals arriving, she leans heavily on Charlotte Baker, who's proving to be a wizard with the Haven's numbers. Charlotte estimates that the cost of the new South America Dome could be close to $30 million, which the Haven should be able to afford over the 5-year construction period, provided there are no surprises. The world, however, has other plans. Imogen Chen, head vet, discovers a newly imported flamingo harboring avian influenza, and the sickness spreads quickly. All birds within the zoo are placed under quarantine, and Wesley Parsons continues to monitor other animal species for signs of disease. As it turns out, Whispering Woods is not the only zoo affected. On the other side of the Atlantic, the king penguins at Keystone Park also carry the fast-spreading infection. In South America, Arthur Joyce and Anna Kingston arrived to help volunteers in the rainforests of Brazil. With Silvicorp harvesting massive amounts of lumber each day, more and more animals are losing their habitat, and Sylvester Kane's greed doesn't seem satiated. Jimena Alvarez is glad of the help, but she's not sure how much longer the volunteers can go on for in the face of such destruction. Welcome back to Whispering Woods, Wildlife Haven. Hey everyone, Spira here. Thank you for joining me at Whispering Woods as we get started on the South America Dome. I do apologize for the lack of episode. Last week I had lost my voice and I had a half-finished episode with no voiceover. So that is the episode you are seeing today. As you can hear, I'm not entirely better, but at least I have my voice back, so I can do a voiceover for you guys. So the first thing we're starting with today is the sloth exhibit. Normally this is a walkthrough exhibit, but I wanted to make this just a regular enclosure that people can look into. So the only people who will have access to this enclosure will be staff. I imagine Whispering Woods would maybe have like a little sloth encounter where guests can also enter the enclosure, but that's unfortunately not really something we can do in the game. Although perhaps I will be adding an educational tour around this area, seeing as there will be so many species in here. So that could be part of that once we get there. So I'm setting up these fences all the way around. If you notice the video skipping a little bit, I don't know what exactly the issue was because it does get fixed later on and it should be better next week as well. But I guess something was taking up some processing power on my computer and being very annoying with OBS, or perhaps my OBS settings weren't quite right. So it does skip a little bit. Also, Whispering Woods is getting really big. So season 3 is definitely going to be the final season with the South America Dome, and if my laptop can handle it, I do have plans for a little rescue center for another species on this side of the zoo, as well as a secondary entrance so that we can get more people in on this side of the zoo as well. So those are some of the future plans. But for now, let's talk about the planting in the South America Dome. I haven't done tropical planting in basically ever, really. This is probably the first time I'm actually doing this much tropical planting. And I have to say one of my favorite plants is the Cecropia plant. It almost looks like a Schefflera plant, like an umbrella plant. I'm sure I'll point it out later as well, but like absolutely love this plant. So that is basically the entire sloth enclosure. It's just a mix of foliage. We have mulch, we have faux rocks sunk in, we have a whole bunch of fallen leaves on the ground, and then we can't actually see the bottom of the walkthrough exhibit because it is covered by mulch. So we're gonna move on to the giant anteater enclosure. Our single giant anteater, because that's all I could fit in here, is going to be just to the left. No, I know my directions, to the right as you walk in to the South America Dome. This enclosure, as opposed to the sloth, is going to be more grassy, more Pantanal style, lots of reeds, seeing as we don't have pampas grass. It's the closest thing that we've got. And a little bit more rocky as well. I'm adding some more of the grassland plants, so we have some doom palms in here. I love that the dome is so much taller than a lot of the other houses we've built in the zoo, because I find whenever I do enclosed enclosures, meaning they have a roof, you end up having to use plants that are quite short because otherwise they poke through the roof. And that is not the case in the dome because of how tall it is, and I absolutely love that. Just painting in some terrain here and also roughened it up a slight bit so it's not entirely flat. As you can see, I set up quite a few of the termite mounds for some added interest. I do wish they were flexi color because they're not matching the rocks, so I did try to blend those in with the dirt texture instead. Here are those reeds. This is the closest thing we have to pampas grass. It just really sucks that they have such a massive hitbox because it was taking away from the traversable area of the anteater, and I had to spend so much time just wiggling things around to make sure that he was happy, because we are in challenge mode and that is something that matters. The other thing that really bothered me here is that we do not have a grass that is tagged as South America. So I would use buffalo grass, but for some reason it's not tagged as South America, and it was really messing with the plant needs. So that is why we have more of a dirt enclosure rather than having a whole bunch of grass everywhere. Though I was told that PZ Plus allows you to change some of the plant needs, so I am now heavily considering PZ Plus. Probably not until we finish Whispering Woods, but for those of you who have been waiting for me to use mods, they might be on the way eventually. So here I am just setting up the viewing windows. I had a few very specific spots that I wanted to have glass in, but then I used the rest of the glass as sort of a guide to set up these bamboo walls, which will limit some of the sight lines. Against these bamboo walls, I also do have the pampas grass, which grows quite tall, and that means that guests won't be able to look into the enclosure from absolutely every angle, which I think helps a lot. Just going to stagger that a little bit, and I also swapped out a few of the colors to make things more varied. But that is basically what the giant anteater enclosure looks like after I finish all of this wiggling around. To give a sort of a Pantanal style here, I used the painted clay tile roof, and we're going to make that green to let it fit in really nicely. Now, this is another trick that I love. This one, again, from ZSH Plays. If you watched last week's video, I definitely sang his praises. So we can use the rustic stone decals to kind of blend into the rustic stone path and hide some of these breaks. Against this edge, you can see that we have a raised pathway, and I'm going to put some rocks in here to hide that gap. These rocks are just recolored the same way as the rock walls that we created in the bush dog habitat last week. I've been using those all over the interior of the South America dome as well. This raised walkway is going to be the viewing area for a future enclosure, so keep watching to maybe see a little bit of a hint at which animals are coming to the South America dome next. I'm super excited to play around with all of the different styles inside of this building. Not everything is going to be tropical. A few of the enclosures are going to have more of a grassland feel. Of course, some of them are going to be more tropical. And I do have some fun ideas for part of the layout of the South America dome as well. So to break up the sightlines a little bit further, I wanted to have this educational area breaking up the space between the sloth enclosure and the raised viewing area for our next section. You can also see some of those green benches that I put in. Those are the Fiesta benches from the New Americas pack. And up here, I'm gonna plant some more greenery to bring across that tropical feel. But the faux trees and the stalactites are hiding some education boards. So we're gonna have those on either side. I think we end up with about 4 of them. And then we'll have some fun art shapes and animal signage on those flat plaster pieces. Also some Indonesian brick here as well to add some more interest. Really trying to play with the textures in here so that everywhere you look there's something to look at. Once I'm happy with one of those, I'm going to bring that across so that we can continue this motif, planting up some extra things in front of the viewing area. Here is that Cecropia plant that I was talking about. Absolutely love, love, love this one. And here we have one final thing to put in. This is going to be a planter that breaks up the view from the sloth enclosure and the entrance to the next animal that will be over on the left side of the South America dome. And yes, this time I did get my directions correct. A little bit of a two-tone look to make it more interesting and match the rocks next to it. You can probably guess what animal is going to be over on this side. Just making a fern out of the basket fern so that I can plant this up more easily. And then I'll make sure that our guests are not walking through the planter by putting down some curbs and making sure that they line up with the edges of the planter and are sunk just under the ground. So that's where our South America dome stands for right now. Again, apologies for lack of an episode between the recording issues and the lack of voice. It was just very difficult to get one out, but I am so excited to be working on this. And if you notice the two statues towards the end of the video, let me know in the comments what animals you think are coming next time. Otherwise, remember to leave a like and subscribe to be notified when we do continue the dome next week. And if you'd like to support me a little extra, hit the join button to be part of the members only nest. See you next time. Bye.